guys, is KLKS na? Knowledge learned, knowledge shared. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Our KLKS tutorial, the topic is all about the Java Swing using the JOptionPane. So what is Java Swing? So for our demonstration, we will be using Java Eclipse. So let's try to create our Java project, Java package, and Java class. Our Java project, Java package, and Java class. 4 different functionality of Java Swing. So let's start with our Java Swing 1 demonstration. So what this Java Swing 1 demonstration is all about? So what is this? What is the function of power import? So basically, in order for us to maximize the functionality of the dialog boxes, so let's start with the first dialog boxes using our JOptionPane. So the first question is, how are we going to use the JOptionPane? So let's have the first output, the show. We call it show message. So we do have now the show message dialog. Okay, so using the show message dialog, we do have two parameters, the argument 0 and the argument 1, wherein meron siyang suggestion to use. Argument 0 will be identified with the null, so let us try to click the null. So by default, we will be using the null as argument 0 using the JOptionPane.showMessageDialog. Then afterwards, on our next argument, we can use any value of the constructor. Let us assume we will be using the hello world. Okay, so ended with the semicolon. So if you will notice, we don't have any errors. So let's have our we do have now our first output. So by default, once we are using the JOptionPane.showMessageDialog, our default value is the information dialog box. And at the same time, the name of our dialog is message. We can also change the type and the name of our dialog by simply adding comma, then followed by another constructor, and this another constructor will be served as the name of our dialog box. So let's have the sample together with comma, JOptionPane, then that information message. So we do have information. So in other words, it is the same as our output. It only differs on the name of our dialog box. So aside from the information dialog, we can also use the question dialog. So question. So that question message. So we call it the question message dialog. So we do have the icon of question mark. And of course, from our code, the name of our dialog box is sample. So let us go now with, aside from question message, what else? We can also use warning. So that's warning. So click our warning message, then run. So we do have the warning dialog. Let us go now with the last. Aside from the warning dialog, of course, we do have the identity of error message. Okay, so we do have the error message. So in other words, different functionality varies on different application. Okay, so that's on our second demonstration. Still, we will be using the import javabox.swing JOptionPane. Okay. So in other words, since we are using the identity of J output identifies with the use of dialog boxes. Okay, so let us continue. So the next functionality is all about the JOptionPane. Okay, so our next topic is all about waiting for the user to input a value. So we will be using the show input message or the input dialog. So using the input dialog, we're just using one parameter. And this parameter, of course, cannot be null because we wanted to ask the user. And okay then, by default, once we are using the show input dialog, the dialog box, the input dialog is using is the identity of the question dialog by simply having the label, the text box, and the button. So in other words, let us assume the name is Kent, then click OK. Okay, so let's try to add some functionality of our dialog box. Let us assume if we come up with the idea of any name, let's greet the name hello. So of course, in order for us to greet the name hello, we will be using the JOptionPane.showMessageDialog together with the constructor hello together with the plus sign, and let us go now with the variable. So let us try to assign. So from the inputted value of the user, let us try to assign any variable. Let us try to use string name equal sign. So together with the name. So do not forget a space as part of our output. Then follow. Let us try to check. That's the second functionality of the J option, using the inputted value. Perhaps you will be asking what's the reason why age is declared string, knowing that age is an integer or a number value. So if we were going to use integer using the show input dialog, so integer, so automatically it will become an error. So but if we will be using integer, so it is still an error. So in other words, by default, we can also use string with regards with the age. What is the purpose of identifying the correct value of our age? It is for us to use the relational operator. Let us assume we wanted to identify the age remarks using the relational operator. Let us try. Okay, so I added additional class name. For this additional class name, we're going to demonstrate additional functionality of our method using the integer that parts in int function. JOptionPane for our third functionality. So this time, we will be using the ShowConfirmDialog. What you have noticed using our ShowConfirmDialog, we do have three different buttons, one for the yes, no, and cancel. So by default, once we are using the ShowConfirmDialog, the name of our dialog box is select an option using the three buttons yes, no, and cancel. So we are now on the last part of our demonstration, the show option using the JOptionPane. That we call it show option dialog. Show option dialog. Okay. Using the null for the first parameter. So now, if you will notice, we do have lots of argument 1 to 7. So what is the function of this argument 1 to 7? So basically, the show option dialog uses an array. In order for us to come up with the argument value, we have to create an array variable. So let's start with identifying an array variable option. Array options as the name of our variable is equal to So how are we going to use our variable array option? So we do have null for our argument 0, null, then followed by the next in line, we do have the value of our output, or we call it our constructor. Let us go now with evaluate my tutorial. Okay, next in line, of course, the name of our dialog for the argument 3. We do have choose now. Next in line, we do have, of course, the J option. Okay, for the second declaration of the J option, we will be identifying default value. So default option. Okay, next in line, after identifying the default option, okay, so let us move now with the comma together with the JOptionPane point. Let us try to use any message. Let us go now with information message, and then comma. Let us go now with the null. Okay, so By the way, if we wanted to continue on our next line, it's okay. So, putulin ko para i-continue natin next line para hindi siya masyadong mahaba. So, ito, i-out. Dito ko na lang siya ilagay. Then, followed by information message together with the null, together with our array variable. Then, followed by array options indices 0, knowing that the value will start with the excellent. Okay, so what else? The J option. So let us try to correct the variable name J option. Okay, so let us try to identify the output. So we do have now the dialog box name is choose now based on the name of our constructor choose now. The array value as our button. So we call it the JOptionDialog. Okay, by the way, we can also create, aside from the string, we can also create all of the kind of array type. I have here now our output using an array of characters. So that's it for our JOptionDialog. For our last additional functionality, let us try to use the showConfirmDialog, which is our JS3 class. So what is this all about? So I will be adding additional import. If we wanted to insert an image, there are two ways on how are we going to insert an image on our dialog. So instead of using information, warning, or even an error or question, we can also enhance the appearance of our icon by simply adding an image or by simply inserting an image. So as I have said, there are two ways. So the first way, in this kind of image, we call it the logo, the Java logo. So all I have to do is to copy this logo, click on the Java SRC, click, then call it paste. So what will happen? So automatically the logo.png added on our SRC. Or we can insert an image using SRC together with slash, then the logo, the file name itself, PNG. So in order for us to use the image icon as our icon on our dialog box, the JOptionDialog, JOptionPane. So the last JOptionPane is all about inserting our image on our dialog, and actually any message, JOption message will do. Then after that, we will be using the bar icon. Then of course our semicolon. Okay, so let us have the output. Okay, so I have here the confirmation, but this time we are now using our icon. Okay, so by the way, aside from identifying SRC, as we all know, using the SRC, going to use the location of the folder. So I will be using folder. So let us go now with, okay, so assuming I will be using, so this one, the Java one. So location tayo. So we call it, I have here the location. So control C na lang tayo. So control C para sa location. Then so let us go now with the output. Okay, so So we do have now the functionality of our image icon. So thank you for watching KLKS. Hope you learned something. See you on our next tutorial.